Okay, I don't even know if this is actually working because I've never actually done this before properly. I've kind of done it before. Um, yeah. So I'm just gonna make sure that everything's up and running in terms of making sure everything works, and then we can start. Um, oh, perfect, perfect, perfect. Um, yeah, so we're gonna start then. I don't even know if there's anyone here. I should be able to see that, right? So I'm going to see. I don't know if that's just me. That might just be my. But yeah, I'm going to just do a few things, get a few things set up, and then I will start this review, which is live, because I've never done anything like this before. But I might do it more if it works. Yeah, so when it comes to talking about Loki, because Loki is just great, but then I'm going to start by talking about what if when I do start in like 30 seconds. But yeah, because Loki was a great episode, and I feel like I don't know. I feel like maybe if I do these with a little bit of since I barely edit the audio anyways when I make videos, if I just do some of these live, then I can maybe get some opinions and whatnot as well while I'm talking about it, which could be cool. And so yeah, I mean, I'm gonna start by talking, and this will obviously be up on YouTube later, but it'd just be a fun thing I thought to do. So yeah, um, I'm going to start. I really don't know how to open these because normally I do them on like videos, and so that's like a completely different thing. Um, I know there's a chat here. I don't know how these really work. Oh, there we go. I figured it out. Okay. See, I've never really used this YouTube interface before like this. So yeah, I don't know when technically would be the best time to start, but I guess now, but the present is the best time, right? So I'm gonna start. So let's talk about what if. Okay, so this what if trailer has come out obviously, and I wanted to kind of give my thoughts about this, and I want to know what you guys thought of the what if trailer too. You can put in the chat because that's a thing, and then I can see it, right? So this what if trailer I thought was really really well done, and it kind of is an interesting scenario because it's not something Marvel's ever done before, right? Because we know obviously Marvel is a company which does live action movies, or the MCU at least in terms of they do the live action movies. You have never really seen an animated part of Marvel before, unlike, for example, Star Wars, right, where you do have those animated shows which do connect to the greater story. And the way they're doing this, I think, is actually really interesting in comparison to that. And I do want to know what people think of this down in the chat thing. I don't know if it's below, or I think it might be below. But yes, because this is something Marvel's never done before, and I think it'll be interesting, like as the MCU, right? And I think it'll be interesting to see how it's received because it is a bit jarring. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit struck by it since it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just um, different trailers, all right, and I so yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? I think the biggest thing is because the way they proposed it or kind of made this, I think what they want to do is because they want to do it, one episode for each movie essentially. They they need to make it animated for budget constraints, right? Because and it's a lot easier to kind of do some of these things in animation. And the other part of it is kind of like it makes sense because it is the multiverse, right? It is a different timeline. So it's not like it has to be in live action because you can make the argument that there is a live action timeline and then there is these other timelines that they're using which are animated, right? And so you can kind of explain it through that. It'll also be interesting because I think the voices were really interesting because it's kind of like, yeah, we know they're the actual actors voicing the characters, but I don't know, there's something else about it. And now on the screen also is the Spider-Man, Doctor Strange Spider-Man, which I thought was really funny, because I think that I don't know, I feel like Spider-Man is like really is really cool as like a character, and we know that there's going to be something to do with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, in terms of Spider-Man No Way Home. Far From Home was the second one, and because mainly, of course, the Funko Pop leaks, which showed us kind of this Spider-Man Doctor Strangey thing maybe going on where Spider-Man uses magic or something, right? And so I think that'll be an interesting part of it as well. Is kind of like, do kind of guess similar concepts to this happen in the movies, or do they mirror similar concepts? So could the reason Spider-Man being looking like Doctor Strange, probably from the Spider-Man episode, be related to the fact that, or could be related somehow to Spider-Man being Doctor Strange? Like, will they maybe in the movies, I guess was what I'm trying to say, go into these timelines, and could we see something like that? I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but it's interesting, right? And we do have a kind of I guess a big history of with variants and stuff from Loki, right? Because Loki's someone who also, meets variants of himself. Obviously, currently he's meeting variants of himself, and in the actual show, and so seeing these variants of these other characters will be really interesting as well. I don't know how much else I have to say on What If. If anyone else has any thoughts on this, you can put them in the chat. And then the biggest thing I liked about the trailer, I like the fact that we're going to get to see Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, although kind of indirectly, one last time. Like, the fact that he will have that last performance, even though it is just a voice and it's not actually him. I think that's kind of that's going to be the best thing. I think that'll actually be the driving force for a lot of people to watch the show, is just that fact alone, because I do think a lot of people want to see him again in that role, even if it is just one more time. But I think that was definitely the best part. I also love Spider-Man, so Spider-Man being Doctor Strange, or Spider-Man having a part in this season, because we know not all the movies will be covered in this first season, and this is one they have said will have multiple seasons. So I think that's probably the most interesting thing about the trailer, or the thing I like the most about the trailer. So let's talk about Loki now, because that was really the main part of this, and there will be spoilers in this. So actually, I'm gonna put that in the chat. Spoilers for Loki. There you go. And I think it was cool that for me, the whole Peggy and Steve switch up. Yeah, I mean that's something which I remember when the first, I think it was in one of the specials, the kind of specials they had. That was kind of the first thing that was kind of shown, and I think that was kind of the thing where everyone was like, "Oh my god, that's crazy," because it's kind of like flipping that, and you can kind of see how that would work in the relation to that movie. And I mean, think about it though. Imagine with Tony Stark, not hero Tony Stark, but like still Tony Stark for money, with Killmonger, who with his kind of thing. Yeah, I know the chat's delayed. I don't know. I think that's just a vetting thing or something. I don't know. I think even the stream's delayed technically from when I'm saying this. But yeah, I think Tony and Killmonger, when you have them weapons kind of selling Tony, and Killmonger being like Killmonger, that could be a real, like, you could see Killmonger in some awesome armor. And I think if that happens, and I do believe that it's episode 1 or 2, that Tony Stark one. I don't know if Captain America's first or second, but I know that those two are the first two. And you think different What If is a different season? I think they said they're doing a bunch of movies for each season. I don't know if they said 14 or something, or not 14. Maybe it was like 10. It was some longer number of movies for each season, and then it'll kind of go into, I guess and then it'll go into the next season where they'll do more movies, and as long as the MCU continues. Well, yes, Loki. Let's talk about Loki now. So I'm going to switch the screen a little bit to the Loki stuff because they're Loki pictures, and then I can talk about Loki. Sorry, just gotta. There we go. Is that all of them? Yeah. Okay, perfect. The screen's fixed. Yeah. I think it'll take a second to like connect, right? Probably. I'm sure it's coming along. Oh, there we go. So yeah, Loki. Let's talk about Loki. Let's talk about What If a little bit more. Do you see that scene with like Killmonger leading an army against? Yes, I did. I think, yeah, I think it'll probably end up being Killmonger and Tony Stark together, and Tony Stark, doing stuff. It's gonna be, and whatever they do together is gonna be more bad stuff. So I think that'll be cool. And I wonder if Killmonger will be the main character because it seems a lot like he's gonna be kind of somehow the main character of all of these, and I don't know how that'll work, but I think that could happen. Um, yes, the Thanos copter. Yes. So the Thanos copter is, and I don't know if this is, if you know this, but the Thanos copter is actually in the comic. There's actually, he had a helicopter in the comics for a comic, and it was a crazy, and everyone was like, okay, are they gonna put this in Endgame because it's such a Marvel thing to do. Um, yep. So it's such a Marvel thing to do when it comes to putting in these silly kind of things. You look at all the things they've done. They made these silly things legitimate, and I think that and so I think people were kind of like, are they going to give Thanos the copter in Infinity War or Endgame? But they ended up not doing. I think tonally it didn't make sense, but they did put it here, which is amazing, and it kind of makes up for everything. And I'm, and then the other kind of aspect of this, I think, is kind of is like all the little Easter eggs in this episode, because this episode, I think, more so than any of the other episodes thus far, at least, really did just put in a lot of Easter eggs and also set up a ton of stuff. And now, to being perfectly honest, I think that this I guess aspect of this of like Loki and stuff like that is not my specialty, I guess, in terms of my knowledge. And a lot of, like, I know about Kang and stuff, but beyond that, a lot of this is kind of new to me because that was never, like, comics would be Avengers and it'd be Miss Marvel and be that kind of stuff, but it would never really be this other side of Marvel, which I do think is really interesting. And I think personally I really want to go back and kind of read a bunch of stuff on, because Kang is amazing and I've never really read Kang. So but yeah, I mean, I think that the other thing which I remember I would just love so much, and it's kind of a bit of a dark picture on the screen, but it's the one with Frog Thor, or Throg, who's an actual character, and who at the end of that one, in my last kind of review of Loki, where I kind of was like, and where I was kind of like talking about how great Frog Thor is, or how he might actually show up in this, because Alligator Loki, you would assume kind of that the relationship. And yes, I do at least the podcast with Alon, who is another who is my co-host for this channel. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think that I think Throg being in this was just so cool, and it was kind of a quick pan too. And I remember this is the first time ever in a TV show I've done this, but so I was watching it, and they kind of panned down as they were with the hammer, and then Throg jumping around, right? And I didn't know what that was. I thought it was just a little Thor, like a shrunk version of Thor jumping around, because I saw the helmet. And then I actually went back to look at it, and I paused it on that scene to see who it was, and I was like, oh my god. And then I kind of had that realization moment. And then so the Rock Hill thing is actually what people are saying is the living tribunal, is who he could be, or a dead living tribunal. Now the question is can there be multiple living tribunals? Because in the comics, of course, the living tribunal is like this ultra end of the worldy type dude, right? And he's kind of like this I guess like big cosmic figure, right? Like the Watcher and like other kind of these big cosmic figures. And so people are kind of saying it looks like the living tribunal. I don't have a picture of the living tribunal right now, but like from the comics, but that's what kind of people were saying about this. And I mean, it's interesting because it does look kind of like the living tribunal's head, but then if there's multiple living tribunals. Can there be multiple living tribunals, or are some of these beings kind of going to be their own thing, right? That's the question. And I think that'll be something which they'll have to kind of, answer, and will probably answer. Because if there can be multiple kind of big cosmic beings, then how does that work in the grand scheme of things, I guess? Because it kind of makes it a little bit more complicated because then is nothing consistent throughout the universe? Is there nothing which doesn't change throughout, through these different timelines, right? And that would probably be the big thing. And now I want to know what people think. Do you legitimately think Kang is in that castle? Okay, do you legitimately think Kang is in that castle, or is it somebody else? Because I have a hunch. I don't know why, but I feel like Kang will be in the show because the actor said he's going to be in the show. But is Kang going to be the big person behind this? Despite all the signs, I don't know. I feel very much like they're going to do something where, kind of like Quicksilver and Ralph, right? And kind of how they went around with that. I feel like it'll be something similar to that in the way they do this. And my personal theory, which I was kind of thinking of during the actual show, was maybe they do this risky thing, and they say a variant of Owen Wilson's character, Mobius, is the guy behind this. Because I think it's kind of interesting that Mobius was fine, He found a car and he was able to get away. And he was able to survive, when they kind of did state in the show that Loki's were the only ones who were able to survive, which is why they were the only ones around. So I think it's interesting that Mobius did survive, and it makes me kind of wonder, because you look at WandaVision, you look at the kind of their trend. When you have one episode left to wrap up all this stuff, do you actually go with, a new character entirely who you've never introduced before? Or do you go with kind of the big reveal being, I guess, something expectations subverting, like they did with this, like they even did, maybe he's confirmed. Okay, think about it. When it comes to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and they had that big reveal at the end, what happened with, what did you, everyone was kind of shocked that when it came to or no one was shocked, I guess, when it came to the Power Broker reveal, right? So if they do a similar reveal to that with this, which I think they will, it'll be a character who we've already seen. I don't think it'll be a new character, because it doesn't make sense for them to go that route. You can still have Kang come in and, show up in either an end credit scene or at some point in this, but I think the big reveal can't be a new character, right? You can't be building up to a character you've never seen before. You have to build up to someone who you have seen before. And Mobius, I think, is the most interesting option for that, because we know he can be obviously a variant. He is a variant. Or, the other option is the original Mobius is the guy in charge, and variant Mobius is, variant Mobius, right? That's the other thing. Because technically speaking, he could be. And I think, because I don't know if you introduce a new character, does it make sense? I personally don't think it makes sense. I know there are the Doctor Doom rumors and all that stuff, but I honestly think that's complete nonsense. You're not introducing Doctor Doom outside of a movie. Kang, we know will probably be introduced in the show, but again, his thing will be kind of Ant-Man 3. That'll kind of be his thing. And I don't know. I feel like I feel like it'll be more unsatisfying for the average viewer if it is Kang than if it is the original Mobius or another variant of Mobius, right? You know what I mean? It's more unsatisfying and not for someone who knows who Kang is, but for someone who has no clue who Kang is, it's going to be a disappointing reveal. And that's the thing. Is it concluded? Because, I don't know if female Loki is concluded as a character, because, but that relationship is weird, right? The female Loki and Loki relationship is weird, because it's it feels so Loki, right? And it makes perfect sense. But at the same time, it's kind of weird, but then again, not really because it's Loki, right? And so that's the weird part, right? It's kind of like it makes sense because of Loki's character. I do, and I do like the idea that they aren't pushing her as the Enchantress, and they're kind of allowing her to be, I guess, herself, you know. But at the same time, you know, what does that mean for everything else, right? I mean, I mean, you can make the argument, I think, for sure that the Loki and, I guess, Sylvia relationship is a good one because it makes perfect sense, right? But you know what I found also found very interesting is is classic Loki, because I think he kind of shows what Loki is capable of essentially. His powers are crazy, and I love that they did give classic Loki, who of course was made by, you know, Stan Lee and Kirby as like the initial Loki. They're giving him so much more power because that's what he, you know, Loki's supposed to have so much. Like Loki's never shown power before. You know, all the appearances of Loki, he's barely used magic because I think the MCU was trying to especially ground Loki as a character. You know, the first two Thor movies, they literally tried to ground Thor by taking away his powers, and you know, the second movie they tried to do a little bit more, but they're still trying to keep him grounded. And so I think them being able to finally um, come into like their own with Loki is kind of, and in terms of like giving him his powers and stuff, like, you know, letting him see the potential of his powers is really interesting. Um, well, thank you for coming to give the view. You should watch though; it's a very good show. It's one of the it's it's a it's a great show. It really is. Marvel does no wrong. The MCU is the best film cinematic universe. It's the best universe ever. It is. It really is. But yeah, I think that Loki is it's a very interesting kind of situation. And I mean, I don't know how you wrap like I don't know how you wrap up Loki in an hour. I legitimately don't know. I know Marvel will be able to do it because they said that for every single show before the last episode. I don't know how you wrap this up in an hour, and they managed to do it every time. It'll probably be a very action-packed last episode. So I mean, you know, that'll probably be fun. But it'll be interesting to see what they do, how they wrap this up, and do they wrap it all up? Because of course, Falcon and the Winter Soldier didn't wrap everything up. They kind of left a lot of loose ends for um, for the you know for no, but see, this is the thing. It doesn't matter. Attack on Titan is great, or I'm sure it's great, and it, but but Marvel's better, and but yeah, I mean, I think it. You know, Falcon and the Winter Soldier left a lot hanging, and Loki has a lot of places to kind of, you know, go from here and to kind of continue forward. And so I think that'll also be very interesting because, of course, Loki is going to probably show up in Thor. He could probably show up in Doctor Strange. He could probably show up in maybe Spider-Man. So there's a lot for him to do, and a lot of places for him to continue, just like Captain America, where you don't have to wrap everything up. And I think they might end up doing that, where they don't wrap up. Although, how many loose ends are there? Now that I'm thinking about it, there's just who's been running. Like, how much more do they really need to wrap up in the show at least? Basically, just that. The question, I guess, becomes what happens to Loki, and do they bring him? Would you want to see Loki back in the main movie, or would you want him to kind of have more seasons, kind of traveling through time and doing that kind of thing, or do you want to see him legitimately come back and find a way to the main timeline and do that? And do you want them to maybe even bring Kid Loki and Lady Loki along with them? Like, would you want to see essentially three Loki just kind of show up in the main timeline, or would you want them to kind of have their own? Maybe you bring Kid Loki in to the main timeline, and then you kind of have the other two Lokis kind of, you know, relaxing in the background and kind of traveling through time and giving this show then multiple seasons to kind of, you know, explore the a bit of the Thor mythology, which Thor in his movies never got to explore because there is so many stories I mean, yeah, that's basically the big question is does Loki travel time or join the MCU timeline? I think Kid Loki's someone who there's a reason they're kind of being very careful with kind of making him hidden in a sense is because I do think they plan on bringing him into the main timeline. The question just becomes, uh, does Sylvie and do Loki kind of? I think Sylvie survives, to be honest, because I think she's too good of a character to not. And I think if anything, they kill Tom Hiddleston. And again, do they do that? I mean, I don't know. Now, you know what I would want though? Not gonna lie, if I'm being completely honest, I want a book. I want a book of all the variants of Loki and just explaining their backstories. That would be a book. Or I mean, you could do another show season of a show of the show where you kind of you get to explore different Loki's backstories because that was the one thing I remember when the trailer came out. I was like, President Loki, we're gonna be doing that arc except in the MCU, but then they kind of didn't give it to us. They kind of gave us the Loki, but they didn't give us the arc, and so I'm kind of like, I want to see Loki in legitimately traveling through time, and legitimately because they pitched the show. I remember initially I made a video actually about this. They pitched it as a Rick and Morty style show. This was not a Rick and Morty style show in that sense, in the sense that people expected. So I do want a second season so we can get that aspect of it. A book or a second season, just so we can see these variants because I feel like at the end of the day these variants would be. I mean, a second season would also work, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like we need to see more of these Lokis. I mean, you could do like an episode for each Loki, right? You could do or you could do Loki going and visiting these other timelines, right, with other Lokis. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like there's just you could give us a legitimate Loki time travel show. Um, but yeah, I feel like they could give us a legitimate time travel show in the second season rather than this, which it's like, don't get me wrong, this is still a great show, but I'm saying in terms of what else you could do with it, you could kind of look at it and kind of, I have not watched season 5 of Rick and Morty. No, I've actually only seen one season. I've only seen one season of Rick and Morty, which I know I don't know why. I really should watch it. I know it's good. I've seen one season. I just never ended up getting to the other seasons. But I think Loki is definitely something which, there's so much more to explore than has actually been explored. And I think that'll be something which will be very, very interesting going forward. But yeah, I mean, I think Loki was good. I think there's a lot of hints toward Kang, obviously toward the end, be that the smoke monster thing, or and kind of like in the comics what happens there. But I mean, yeah, it's a good show. I mean, I think Loki's actually had the most character development out of all the characters who've gotten shows so far, like Loki himself, and not because of yes, I do have to watch Rick and Morty and Attack of Titan. But yes, I do think that Loki's gotten by far the most character development. And I mean, yeah, that's I think that's it. I mean, it was a good episode. I think I had notes, but I don't want to find them now. And maybe when I watch Attack on Titan, I'll do like an Avatar style review of it afterwards. Maybe. But I gotta get it. I gotta get it, and then I'll have to watch it. Maybe I'll watch it after I watch Black Widow. Or at least I'll start watching it after I watch Black Widow. We'll see. But yeah, I think that's it. I don't know if I have anything else to say. If anyone else has anything to say, feel free to type it in the chat. Other than that, though, I think I'm gonna be done with this live stream. I think this will probably appear as a video, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's all. Thank you all for watching. If you're watching this as a video, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. I might do this more. I actually enjoyed this. I'm trying to do something to make this a little bigger. And I got a plan, but I needed more time than today to do it. So yeah, thank you. But yeah, I mean, I think I've got a plan, and I want to try to get it to happen, but I've got to like actually have a little bit more time to get happening. And actually, if I could, maybe next week. Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to help. I love talking about Marvel. I love talking, and then I love talking about Marvel. You know, it's a good combination. And I might do this again. I think this is fun, and that's pretty much it for me. Thank you all, and see you all next time. Bye.